So what are we gonna do with some old screening, some extra tubes that are from old gardening planters, and drain pipe? We are going to make a self-watering urn with no drainage holes. For those of you not familiar with my channel, I'm a renter. I have to use containers to garden if I want to. In Florida, I had upwards of 40 plus containers. Now I have less, but they still work. And a lot of what I use are the earth box system, specifically the root and veg, and then the standard. And the reason I do that is because they self-water. Essentially, you put the water in, and as the plant needs water, they get it. I have an Earthbox Junior here, and I thought I'd show you guys this concept because there's a wonderful gentleman. His channel is Gardening with Leon, and he shows essentially how you're going to create something like these self-watering containers without paying a premium, essentially. And the gist of it is the containers have a water reservoir in the bottom, and then this area is going to have your dirt in it, and that's where the water and dirt connect, and they wick up and they get fed via a water tube. And then I think these have an overflow on them, but our urn that we're going to be using today doesn't. And what his method is use whatever plastic water bottles, milk jugs, whatever you have to essentially create this barrier here, this plastic. You can get a tube easy enough to put the water in, and then as with any of these types of self-watering containers, you need to make sure that your potting soil is in fact a potting mix. The difference is the wicking agents, the peat moss, the coconut coir, whatever that is. Even if you blend it yourself like we do sometimes, it needs to have a wicking agent, and that means that via capillary action, the dirt that's in here will have enough wicking agent to pull the water up and distribute it upwards. Regular potting soil that's just compost and forest matter typically doesn't have that in it. So again, you need something that says it has peat moss or coconut coir, or just get a block of coconut coir, hydrate it, and mix it into your potting soil if that's what you have. So we're going to recreate this same concept with our urn that we got at Goodwill using mostly scraps. As I'm sure you can imagine, these guys are rough on the doors coming in and out. They don't mean to, but they're big boys. So we have this screen mesh that is no longer attached to the door and has a bit of holes in it. This is going to be our screen that we have here. And to get the wicking agent, or to hold the water in so the wicking agent can get to it, we have these French drains that we cut up, and these are the ones that have holes in it. And so what's going to happen is this is going to be in the bottom here, essentially. I'll just take this out. This will be in the bottom. We'll have this screen essentially over it. Thanks, Wally, you're helping real good, buddy. This is just a rough guesstimate here. And then this tube will be in here filling this water up as needed, and then we'll put dirt on top, and that'll help with the moisture up. The water can stay in here. Now, obviously this is not the container intended for, but that's okay. We're gonna do this with our urn. Over the years, I acquired a lot of these tubes, mostly from the watering kits. So I duct taped two together, and then I cut a little bit of a notch in the bottom, since there's no drainage hole for this to sit in, or watering hole for this to sit in. This will make sure the water doesn't get stuck. And here's the urn. A good $20 well spent at Goodwill, but as you can tell, there's no drainage on it. It's just sitting in here, holding up the water, which is fine. So I have two pieces of French drain, and they technically fit perfectly across, but I'm gonna take a section out of one because we need to get the watering tube into that same section, and we want it to be butting up against the drainage tube. How, look at this. So now our tubing where we're going to be watering into, this side where we cut the slit is going to go right in here, so it's nice and snug against this tube here, so the water goes in here, then starts filling up these two. Now we need to just add our netting on top. Now in this moment, this doesn't look like much. It even looks kind of terrible, but what we've done is I've taken one of the panels from the door piece and got this secured-ish. We covered the drain pipe, and we've really shoved the mesh down as far as we can because we want to make sure that we pack that in with dirt and everything we can to wick that up. And then I took another piece and just put it on this side to make sure this corner here where the drain pipes touch the edge of the urn, I can sort of get my finger in there just a little bit, so I don't want dirt going in there and blocking our water reservoir up. So I cut a little chunk, and as this fills with soil, I'm sure we can compact these extra bits down, or if not, we can just cut them out. It really doesn't matter because it's old leftover scraps, and we're really not wasting anything. So I have some coconut coir hydrated. I'm going to put that directly in the bottom there just because we want that to be our main wicking agent, and I really think it's important to get that in the bottom section. So we'll start filling with that. This is probably a little bit too much coconut coir, but that's okay. We'll blend in some compost, some potting mint soil, and some perlite in here, and then get this planted up. The important thing is though, we shoved our fingers around the whole perimeter, made sure everything was compacted down so it had good contact with the moisture in the water reservoir so it can wick up, and no dirt, I think, is going to get through. At least we'll find out in good time. So we got our urn potted up. I put some water in. When you're using self-watering containers, typically you don't have to water from the top and just where the dirt is, but the first time through you want to make sure everything's soaked. So I think this got a good soak. I also watered through here. I'm going to look into getting some sort of dipstick or something so we can stick that down in there and see how much water is in there, if any, for the future. But for now, we know it's good. So I have a roll of burlap for the garden that I'm going to use to make a cover. I also have some seedlings that I started in yogurt containers that we're going to get in here. There's already been mixed in 1 cup of dolomite, and since the only non-vegetable fertilizer I have right now is the rose tone, we're going to put a cup of that in on that back area once everything gets potted up. We've got a vine and some sweet pea, and we're going to get those put in here and protected and get some support on them. All right, our final look before things start growing in. We have some seedlings in here that I'm transplanting. We have a cardinal climber and some Swan Lake sweet peas. Haven't grown any of them before, so I hope that size trellis is big enough. If not, that's a good problem to have. We'll add more later. But now we have a self-watering urn that we just need to fill with that back tube periodically. But because we have this burlap cover just like we have here, it doesn't last forever, but it'll let water come in and it'll keep some of the dirt from blowing out in high winds. So it doesn't save it and keep all the moisture in like a plastic cover would, but it still lets water in when it rains naturally. So I think that's a good enough trade-off for me. So now we just wait, and we'll be sharing updates in the future on future garden tours. So make sure you're subscribed so you see how this works out. But I hope this inspires you to get some containers that you wouldn't normally choose and opt for because they don't have drainage holes and they can't water themselves, and how to convert them. This is not my idea. Make sure you check out Gardening with Leon. He's got tons and tons of tutorials on how to create all sorts of different self-watering containers, from super big with stock feed containers to super small coolers upcycled. So Gardening with Leon has tons and tons of tutorials. This is just my take on how to do it with an urn. Okay, friends, well, I'm Alessandra. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and hopefully these seedlings, next time you see them, will be twice as big. What do you think, Wally? Did we do a good job? The urn's gonna grow real big and strong? I hope so.